Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Chirade. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishwapad Pramasa Prajnara Stotar Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Church, Beauty Founder Church, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. And Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, titled Maharaj Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmana Boy. Text number 39. Savangiraso Brahman. Savangiraso Brahman. Shrutva Sutta Bilapanam. Shrutva Sutta Bilapanam. Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Dristva Chamse Mrituragam. Dristva Chamse Mrituragam. Savangiraso Brahman. Shrutva Sutta Bilapanam. Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Dristva Chamse Mritoragam. Savangiraso Brahman. Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam. Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Dristva Chamse Mritoragam.
Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Chamse Mritoragam.
Chamse Mritoragam.
Sava Angiraso Brahman.
Savangiraso Brahman.
Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam.
Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam.
Unmilya Sanakir Netre.
Unmilya Sanakir Netre.
Vishva Chamse Mritoragam.
Vishva Chamse Mritoragam.
Matajis.
Savangiraso Brahman. Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam. Unmilya Sanakir Netre. Vishva Chamse Mritoragam.
Savangiraso Brahman.
Savangiraso Brahman.
Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam.
Shrutva Sutta Vilapanam.
Unmilya Sanakir Netre.
Unmilya Sanakir Netre.
Dristva Chamse Mritoragam.
Vishva Chamse Mritoragam.
Word for word translation. Sa, he, they, also, Angirasaha, the rishi born in the family of Angira. Brahman, O Sonaka, Shrutva, on hearing, Sutta, his son, Vilapanam, crying in distress, Unmilya, opening, Sanake, gradually, Netre, by the eyes, Dristava, by seeing, Cha, also, Amse, on the shoulder, Mritta, dead, Uragam, snake. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: O Brahmanas, the rishi who was born in the family of Angira Muni, hearing his son crying, gradually opened his eyes and saw the dead snake around his neck. There's no purport. We'll go to the next verse, text number 40. Visrijyatam cha papracha vatsa kasma dirodisi kenavate apakritam iti uktasa nyavadayat. Translation: He threw the dead snake aside and asked his son why he was crying, whether anyone had done him harm. On hearing this, the son explained to him what had happened. The father did not take the dead snake on his neck very seriously. He simply threw it away. Actually, there was nothing seriously wrong in Maharaj Parikshit's act, but the foolish son took it very seriously, and being influenced by Kali, he cursed the king and thus ended a chapter of happy history. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuramanitam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So, we're just nearing the end of this chapter, Maharaj Parikshit, cursed by a Brahmana boy. So, quick recap of the scene, what's happened so far. So, we heard how once upon a time Maharaj Parikshit was in the forest, and suddenly he was overcome by hunger and thirst. So, he was looking for a place where he can get some water or food, and then he saw, there was like a sage's residence, a hut of a rishi. So he goes in, and this is actually the residence of a great sage named Sonaka Rishi. And when he enters this hut, he sees that Sonaka Rishi is in meditation, and he's in trance. And this sage, usually Prabhupada explains about how a proper way to receive a guest is, at least, if you don't have anything else, at least you should offer them some sweet words. At least you should offer them a place to sit, a mat to sit on. And at least you should offer them a glass of water, at least some water. So these three things, even if one is completely poor, at least one can offer these three things. A place to sit, some water, and sweet words. But when Maharaj Parikshit enters into the ashram, Sonaka Rishi, he doesn't acknowledge his presence. He doesn't welcome him. And Maharaj Parikshit is no ordinary person. He's the king of the entire planet. And only by Maharaj Parikshit's strict and perfect ruling is everything going on very nicely. So, but this sage, he doesn't open his eye, doesn't say anything, doesn't receive him with any sweet words, doesn't give him a place to sit. So Maharaj Parikshit is okay, but he was feeling very thirsty. He was overcome by pangs of thirst and hunger. So he asked the sage, that I'm very thirsty. Can I please get a little water from you? And this sage, he kept on meditating and he didn't respond. He was in trance. And then it's mentioned, Bhagavatam explains that Maharaj Parikshit, he got overcome by anger. And then he was angry leaving. And as he was leaving, he saw outside the hut there was a dead snake. So he picked up the snake and he was thinking, okay, this sage treated me so coldly. So this is the right way to deal with such a person. I'll take this cold dead body of a snake and put it around his neck as a garland. So obviously Prabhupada, purport after purport, he explains that Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee of the Lord, and this act that Maharaj Parikshit did was actually arranged by the Yogamaya potency. Krishna, he arranged this whole situation where Maharaj Parikshit will be bewildered, where Maharaj Parikshit will be overcome by thirst, where Maharaj Parikshit will be overcome by anger, so that the curse will happen by Shringi. He's the son of this rishi, and then Maharaj Parikshit could hear Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam could be spoken for the benefit of Kali Yuga. As we all know that after Krishna leaves this planet in end of Dwapara Yuga, for Kali Yuga, Krishna descends as Bhagavatam to give light to all those fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga who lost their vision in the dense darkness of Kali. So Krishna, he was feeling compassion for all the souls coming in the future Kali Yuga. He was thinking, okay, now I'm going to leave. What will be the source of liberation of all the persons born in Kali Yuga? And he was also thinking, okay, now I came in Dwapara Yuga and I performed my pastimes, and so many personalities, they go to see my pastimes, they go to partake, but I want to give the same benefit to the persons being born in the future. So then he arranged for Bhagavatam to be spoken, so that in the future, persons by hearing Bhagavatam, they could also participate in the same pastimes. So it's mentioned that when we hear Krishna's pastimes, it's non-different than actually being present while the pastime is actually going on. So there's no difference between being in Dwapara Yuga, thousands of years ago, and personally seeing Krishna enact his pastimes, than hearing Krishna's pastime from Bhagavatam. There's actually no difference. So this way, Krishna, he wanted to give the same benefit to the persons being born in Kali Yuga. Okay, they don't have the opportunity to directly see me performing the activities, but I'll give them by mercy through Bhagavatam. And that way, just by hearing by my pastimes, they'll get the same benefit, they'll get the same experience. So Radhanath Maharaj, he explains that whenever we are hearing these pastimes in Ramayana, Bhagavatam, of any avatar, of any devotee, or Krishna's pastimes, we should understand that the pastimes, while we're speaking, while the speaker is speaking the pastimes are actually happening. And we're actually personally seeing the pastimes, it's actually personally taking place. And this is because Krishna's nature is absolute. There's no difference between Krishna, Krishna's name, form, pastimes, holy name. That's why we say when we chant Hare Krishna, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath are personally present there with us. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, then when one chants Hare Krishna, Radha and Krishna are personally dancing on our tongue. So in the same way, just as holy name is non-different from Krishna, just like whenever we chant Hare Krishna, Gopinath, Radha Gopinath personally present with us. The same way, whenever Krishna's pastimes are being narrated, we should understand the pastimes are actually going on at present, and we're actually personally experiencing and taking part in Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna, he wanted to give this mercy to the persons being born in the future Kali Yuga. So he arranged this whole scene where Maharaj Parikshit will get cursed, so then Bhagavatam could be spoken. So Prabhupada, he gives example, just like with Bhagavad Gita. Again, Arjuna is a pure devotee of the Lord, Nitya Siddha devotee of the Lord. How can Arjuna become overcome by mature compassion just for friends and family like that? So Prabhupada explains that for Bhagavad Gita to be spoken, Krishna arranged, so Arjuna would be covered by his Yogamaya, so Arjuna would be overcome by mature lamentation, so Gita could be spoken. So in the same way, because Krishna wanted to give us Bhagavatam, Krishna arranged this situation where Maharaj Parikshit, who is actually beyond bodily platform, who's beyond hunger, thirst, anger, envy, all these material qualities. So Krishna arranged, number one, first for Maharaj Parikshit to get overcome by thirst, and number two, Krishna arranged Maharaj Parikshit to get overcome by anger and perform this small offensive act towards this sage, so then he would get cursed. So Prabhupada again and again in his purports, he's establishing this fact that Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee. This act that Maharaj Parikshit did is actually just done by the will of the Lord. So after this, Maharaj Parikshit does this and he walks away and he starts going back to his palace, back to his kingdom. And along the way, as he's walking back, he starts thinking that, oh no, what did I do? Maybe, and then he starts contemplating, maybe actually the sage didn't ignore me. Maybe actually he was in samadhi and he was in trance. And maybe he didn't notice me coming in. That's why he didn't say anything. That's why he didn't give me water. That's why he ignored me. So maybe actually I committed a great offense, a great pride against this sage, like against this Brahmana. So in this way, Maharaj Parikshit is contemplating as he's going back. And Prabhupada in his purports, he explains that this is the nature of a devotee of the Lord, that he's always contemplating on his own actions and he's always analyzing, is what I did right, Am I doing my service properly? Is my behavior with other devotees properly? Did I offend anyone? And when he does something wrong, Prabhupada makes this point that a devotee should always be repentant and always should have that guilty feeling, the repentant feeling in his heart whenever he does something wrong. And that repentant feeling will help rectify his mistake so he doesn't do it in the future. Prabhupada, he writes that Krishna is present in the repentant heart. So whenever we do something wrong, that's okay, everyone makes mistake, but like Abhishek Prabhu was mentioning yesterday, our heart should be softened up so we feel guilty, we feel that repentant. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Sorry, Krishna, I won't do it again. Otherwise, if our heart is very hard, then that even that repentance, guilty feeling won't come, then again and again we'll keep doing that same mistake or that same offense again and again. So that's very dangerous, but Prabhupada writes that Maharaj Pariksha, as an ideal devotee, he was feeling repentant for what he did. And then we're taken to the scene of Shringi. So this Brahmana, Sonaka Rishi, he has a son, a young son, and this son is playing with his playmates, and he finds out that, okay, the king came to their residence, and the king wasn't received well by his father. He wanted water, and the father was meditating, he didn't say anything. And then the king, in response, he put a dead snake around his father's neck. So then Shringi immediately, he gets angry. What is this? How can someone do this to my father? So as Rajana Prabhu was explaining, that Shringi was totally in bodily consciousness, In bodily consciousness means I and mine, Whatever is mine, you try and protect and defend against others, and you always fill yourself with all bodily designations. I am a Brahmana, I am from this caste, I am a young boy, this is my father, that is mine, this is mine, I am this, I am that. And all these designations, upadhis, they force one to go deeper and deeper into material existence. The false ego just expands more and more. So Shringi, he was overcome by this, and he was thinking, how could someone like this, do this to my father, And I'm his son, I need to take revenge. I need to show who's boss. I need to teach this king a lesson. And also it's mentioned that Shringi, he was very puffed up by false pride and prestige. He was puffed up mainly from the idea that he is a Brahmana, so he is of a higher caste. So this was discussed in previous classes, how he was puffed up due to his superior caste. So he was thinking, who is this king? He's a Kshatriya, and we are Brahmanas. How can someone of the lower class come and do this to us? And he uses very heavy words to chastise Maharaj Parikshit. He calls Maharaj Parikshit a dog. What dog did he say? Watchdog, yeah, watchdog. He calls Maharaj Parikshit a watchdog, and he calls him a crow. So generally, the dog is will kind of be like a pet or a servant of the residents, and the dog will never be allowed into the house. Obviously, in modern culture, what to speak of bringing the dog to the house, they sleep with the dog on their own bed. So, but in Vedic culture, if they keep a dog, they'll just keep the dog outside the house. And the dog would be kind of like a security person. Like if any intruder comes, the dog will start barking, and then to stop any thieves or plunderers coming into the house. But the dog will never be allowed into the house. So, Shringi, by calling Maharaj Parikshit a watchdog, what is implying is that these Kshatriyas, the kings, they're supposed to be the servants of the Brahmanas. And only based on the Brahmanas' benedictions, they're existing. Without us, they wouldn't exist. So they're actually our slaves. And how can these watchdog-like Kshatriyas come into our house? Just like a dog should never come into the house. So these Kshatriyas, they're like the dogs of the Brahmanas. How can these dogs come in? Firstly, Maharaj Parikshit shouldn't even have dared to enter my father's house. He should have stood outside. He shouldn't even have come in. And secondly, Maharaj Shringi is thinking, or in his mind, like Rajana Prabhu is explaining that, how can a dog expect to eat from the same bowl as the master? Firstly, a dog shouldn't even enter the house, and secondly, a dog eating from the same place as the master, that's unthinkable. So that's the second argument of Shringi, that how can this dog like Kshatriya firstly have the audacity to enter the house of a Brahmana, and secondly, expect to get water from our own pot by which the Brahmanas drink. So much he was overcome, by this bodily pride, these false designations, these false prestige. And he called him a crow also. So this was Shringi. He was so much puffed up, overcome by pride and false prestige. And then that led to anger. And then he angrily curses Maharaj Parikshit that, I curse this Kshatriya, this king, that, in 7 days, a snake bird, Taksha, will come and will bite him, and that's it, he will be finished. So in this way, Shringi and while he got this news, he was playing with his other young Brahmana friends. So you can also see that, he wants to, Prabhupada says, like he wants to, there's that feeling of showing off, like when you're with your other friends, you want to do something to show off in front of others. So Prabhupada writes, he's very inexperienced, he's puffed up, and you can see that, he wants to show off his, Brahmanical power, just see the potency, see what I'll do. And also Bhagavatam explains that Shringi, he was thinking, okay, Krishna has left this planet, end of Dwapara Yuga, Krishna left. And now, religious principles, who will take care, who will give justice to the people? I'm a Brahmana, we're the head of society. I'm the son of Brahmana, I have so much power. Now that Krishna has gone, I'll take the position of Krishna. And I will give justice. Otherwise, society will be in chaos. And so Shringi, he's thinking he's doing something good, He's thinking, yeah, I'll protect the people from this crazy king that we have who did such an offensive act. I'll give justice. Okay, Krishna has left. Now I'll take the position of Krishna and I'll give justice to the people. So in this way, Shringi in anger, he curses. Obviously, when we look at the whole picture, we see, how crazy Shringi's mind has gone. He's just completely, and his mind is just gone. His intelligence is just completely gone. After he curses, then he gets some realization actually. Then, like generally when we do some mistake or we do something wrong, afterwards, a little guilt will come in our heart. And that guilt is the super soul. The super soul will tickle in our heart. Okay, you did something wrong. You did something very bad. So generally, for a normal person, after he does something wrong or very bad, the guilty consciousness will come and he'll start feeling a bit bad. So Shringi, he was starting to feel that guilty consciousness. And then he realized, okay, I think I did something wrong. So that's why when he came back to the ashram and he saw his father, to relieve his heart of that guilt, of that, that terrible act which is just done, he just started crying, So he just started crying his heart out. And then the sage, he wakes up from his trance meditation and he sees, firstly we see today that he sees the snake around his neck and he's like, oh, well, dead snake. And Prabhupada explains that actually the father, he didn't take the snake so seriously. He just saw, okay, there's a dead snake. He didn't freak out or say, oh, who's done this to me? He didn't get like angry, which person in this planet, put a dead snake on my neck, who has done this, may he go to hell. He didn't shout like that. He just didn't take it very seriously. It was just something else, and he just took it off and just threw it on the ground. And then he saw his son was crying in front of him. So then he asked his son, what happened, why are you crying? Did something happen, someone did something to you? And then Shringi tells him the whole story, and then Bhagavatam explains that this Samika Rishi, he was like so, so much overcome by grief, embarrassment, and just by hearing what his son has did. And he just didn't know like what to do, and he was feeling so bad, how could my son have done this? And Maharaj Pariksha, he's not like ordinary king. It's not that he's just like some ordinary minister of just some town. He's the emperor of the world. And not only is he the emperor of the world, he's pure devotee of the Lord. Like we heard in so many Bhagavatam classes over the past week of the glories of Maharaj Pariksha. What a great, elevated, saintly devotee of the Lord he is. His birth is glorious right from, before he was even born, he saw Krishna. And he was so Krishna consciousness, like he was so Krishna conscious that he was always analyzing, where is Krishna, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? So, and that's why he was given the name Parikshit. So he was a pure devotee right from birth. He was no ordinary soul. Prabhupada says he's even, that Maharaj Parikshit's level of bhakti is on the same level as Sukadev Goswami. So by that we can understand, how elevated Maharaj Parikshit is. So point number one, that this is a king. He's the emperor of the whole world. Only by the expert management of the king is everything going on nicely. So many times we hear in the Shastras that some demon will come and disturb the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas will go to the king, and the kings will come and kill that demon and create peace and prosperity in society. So the Brahmanas can peacefully do their meditation, they can peacefully do their yajna and sacrifice, and everything goes on nicely in the kingdom. So everyone in the kingdom, Brahmanas, the Shudras, the Vaishyas, all the other Kshatriyas, they're all very obliged to the king. And the king, the Shastras called the king Naradeva. The Shastra called the king that the king is Naradeva, which means the king is like God in a human's body. So the king should be given the same respect as one should give Krishna. So in this way the Shastras glorify the king because he's taking care of everyone in the whole kingdom. And the king is like a father. Just like a father takes care of all his children very nicely, arranges for the food, shelter. Physically, the father takes care. Emotionally, spiritually, the father takes care. In the same way, a king's duty is not only to physically take care of the whole society, like giving them, making sure everyone has, proper food, shelter, living conditions, but the king should also make sure that emotionally everyone's well. Emotionally, meaning everyone is doing their duties according to their own varna and caste, because generally everyone has their own psychophysical nature. So based on psychophysical nature, one does a particular activity, like Brahminical activity, Shudra activity, Vaishya activity, Kshatriya activity. So the king's duty is to make sure everyone is emotionally well by being engaged in a particular duty which is according to their nature. And thirdly, and most importantly, the king's duty is also to make sure that everyone in his kingdom is spiritually well taken care of. So Prabhupada in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the first purport, he explains that the word Kshatriya, Shat means like hurt, and Trayata means to deliver. So Prabhupada writes that Kshatriya doesn't just mean that to deliver the citizens from material harm, which means harm from terrorists and demons and thieves and plunderers, but actually in the absolute sense, Kshatriya means one who gives protection from lust, one who gives protection from material entanglement, one who gives protections to the citizens from material desires so that they can go back home, back to Godhead. So Kshatriya's duty is to make sure that all of his citizens are properly engaged in the Varna and Ashrama, are properly engaged in worshipping Vishnu, so all the citizens are progressively going back home, back to Godhead. So because the king is taking so much responsibility, physically he's taking care of all the citizens, emotionally he's taking care of everyone, and spiritually he's taking care of everyone. That's why the king is called Naradeva. That's why the king is said to be considered as good as Vishnu, and the king should be given as equal respect as one should give God. And secondly, Maharaj Parikshit is no ordinary king. That's firstly, to any king one should give that respect. Secondly, Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee Lord. And to such a person, if someone curses, then that's like such a great calamity, such a great tragedy. That's why in today's verse, if you read the second line, in the purport, Prabhupada writes that actually there was nothing seriously wrong in Maharaj Parikshit's act, but the foolish son took it very seriously. And being influenced by Kali, he cursed the king and thus ended a chapter of happy history. So as long as Maharaj Parikshit ruled, Bhagavatam explains that Kali couldn't enter. So actually Dwapara Yuga was finishing and Kali Yuga was about to begin. But Bhagavatam explains that Maharaj Parikshit, he was such a great devotee of Lord, such a great emperor, such a great ruler of the planet, that as long as he was present on this planet, Kali personified couldn't take over. He couldn't do anything. That's how powerful Maharaj Parikshit was. Just one person, so powerful, he could rule the entire planet and he could stop a whole yuga personified from entering into the planet. So that's why Prabhupada writes that after Shringi has done this, now a chapter of happy history will be ended. So from this one lesson I was thinking that we can learn is the drawbacks of anger, how much chaos and great mayhem anger can cause in our lives, in the lives of others around us, and even in society. So this is one lesson we can learn from Shringi's mistake. So I was thinking we can go to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. In Gita, Krishna explains, Dhayato visayan pumsam sangat stesu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama krodha vijayate. So Krishna first explains that when one first contemplates on the object of the senses, one develops attachment. From attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Okay? And then Krishna, so we'll first analyze this. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're going shopping and you see some sense object. Let's say you see a very nice sofa in the IKEA or something. And when you see that sofa, then you start contemplating, dhayato. You start thinking, oh, this sofa looks very nice. If I buy this sofa, it will fit perfectly into my living room. And I can nicely relax on the sofa, watch TV. I can play PlayStation also. And also whenever I'm tired, I can lay back and nicely sleep on the sofa. So the sofa can serve multiple purposes. I can watch TV, I can play games, I can sleep, I can relax, I can do so many things. So in this way we start contemplating. And when we start contemplating, what next thing that happens is attachment. Then we start becoming attached to that particular sense object. And then from attachment, lust arises. Lust is like more powerful form of attachment. Lust means that the desire becomes like very strong. So then our desire to have that sofa, it increases even more. And then anger rises. So anger comes when our lust is not satisfied. So let's say we see a sofa, then we start contemplating, oh, this will be very good, I can do this on that sofa, do that. And then slowly attachment increases, then we start becoming lusty after that sofa. And then our partner, says, no, that sofa doesn't look so good, that's no good, let's not buy that, let's buy something else. Then immediately, because in our mind we've already imagined so many, dreams of how we'll enjoy the sofa. So much attachment and lust is developed. And when someone says, no, we shouldn't have the sofa, then immediately anger comes. How can you say we can't? The sofa is so good, it's that price, this price. We can do that on the sofa, this on the sofa. You can even fold out as a bed. 2 people can sleep. So many features here. How can you say? And then, argument, frustration, anger comes. So this is like one simple example. Then what happens after anger? Krodat bhavati sammoha. So after anger comes sammoha. Sammoha means delusion. So after one becomes angry, then one becomes a bit deluded. Okay? Then sammohat smriti brahmash. Brahma, how do you say? Smriti, can you say loud? Vibhrama. So I have to sing it to get. So krodat bhavati sammohat smriti vibram. Okay. Vibhrama. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm not pronouncing it rightly, but smriti means the memory. So first anger, then after anger comes delusion. Then after delusion, smriti, the memory gets lost. It disappears. And that's the key point of which leads to all trouble. So that's the key point, because in the memory, like we come to Bhagavad class, we study all the Shastras. We study, okay, this is the right thing to do. A Vaishnava should act like this. A Vaishnava shouldn't act like this. We shouldn't offend devotees. We shouldn't talk prajalpa. We should be very humble. We should be tolerant. We should take inspiration from Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was like this. We should be like that. Prabhupada said we should be like that. Prabhupada said don't do that. So we hear so many things. And all this knowledge that we get from reading Bhagavatam, all this knowledge that we get from hearing to lectures on iPod, all this knowledge that we get from hearing Bhagavatam class, all this knowledge that we get from hearing from different sadhus, all of that knowledge from Shastra is stored in our memory. And if the memory is gone, that's it. We lose access to all this knowledge. Then what happens? There's no intelligence. So smriti brahmsat buddhi nasho. So when memory is gone, in the memory the intelligence is stored. So all that spiritual intelligence that we've borrowed from Guru, that we've borrowed from Krishna in his form as Bhagavad Gita, that we've borrowed from Bhagavatam, that is borrowed from different sadhus, is all that spiritual intelligence is stored in our memory. So when we get angry, we get deluded, and after delusion, the memory goes away. And the intelligence is stored in the memory. So then all that shastric knowledge we have, all goes away. And when that's gone, one can do anything. One is a complete madman. He doesn't have the spiritual intelligence, the spiritual vision to control his senses and do and function in a proper way. So that's when the danger point comes. So that's what happened to Shringi. He's been trained as a Brahmana. He's a Brahmana's boy. It's not like he's a Chandala or a Shudra. It's not like he didn't have any Vedic education. He studied the Vedas. He studied all the Shastras. He studied Ramayana, and all these different Shastras, Mahabharata. So he knows what's the right thing. He knows, the king is Naradeva. He knows the king can do no wrong. He knows that the king should never be cursed, never should be condemned. He knows the glories of Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was such a great ruler of the planet. Naturally, everyone in the whole planet would have known about his purity, known about his background, about the great heritage he was coming on. But when anger comes, memory goes away. And with memory, the intelligence goes. And when the spiritual intelligence is gone, that's it. One is a complete madman. One can do anything and anything. And one can commit the most heinous act and think he is right. So as we know, if a mad person with no brain, he can just do anything. And that's what causes chaos in society. And that's what we see with Shringi. Once he got overcome by anger and his memory of all the Shastra went, that's when he committed this great act, the great terrible act of cursing the king, that I curse you to die in 7 days. So in the same way, from this instance, we can see how anger causes so much harm, not only to our own spiritual life, but it causes so much disturbance to devotees around us, to other living entities around us, and even in large case to society. And we see that with Shringi case. Not only did he harm himself after he Prabhupada explains, after he gave this curse, the downfall of the Brahmana dynasty started. And from this incident, we see Prabhupada is explaining that the period of the Brahmanas started reducing and the deterioration of the Brahmanas started. And now we see, in India, people will wear Brahman thread and call themselves as Brahmanas, but they'll eat meat and commit they'll smoke, BD and do all sinful activities. And they'll still say, I'm Brahmana. They'll wear a Brahman thread and like that. Prabhupada says that two things have destroyed India. Point number one that destroyed India, Prabhupada says, is the caste system. Is this idea or this concept that, okay, I'm born in a Brahmana family, so I'm a Brahmana. And you guys are all Shudras. So first thing is this caste system is destroyed India. Second thing Prabhupada says that has destroyed India is Yatomat Tatomat. So Yatomat Tatomat means that all paths lead to the same goal. So this Mayavad philosophy, that you can worship anyone. You can worship Durga, you can worship Ganesh, you can worship Chandi, this demigod, this deva, it doesn't matter. You worship Krishna, I'll worship Ganesh. You worship Vishnu, I'll worship Durga. Doesn't matter. At the end, we all go to the same goal. So that's the second thing Prabhupada says has destroyed India. So this first point that destroyed India, it all started with Shringi. So you can see just one personality, he got overcome by anger, what great consequences had. Because of him, the emperor of the planet is going to die. And because of him, now Kali Yuga will start. And because of him, the degradation of the Brahmana class started. So just one person, if he can't control his anger, so much bad effect can have, not only on himself, his family, but the society at large, and not just for one generation, for many generations in the future. So as devotees, we should always carefully, guard ourselves against this great demon of anger, and never let our mind get overcome by anger. Immediately, when we see some frustration or anger creeping into our mind, immediately some alarm should go off. Just like, last week I was hearing that because of the bushfires, there was heavy smoke all over the city, all over Sydney. And because of the smoke was entering into a lot of different office buildings. And as the smoke entered the office buildings from bushfire, all the alarm bells were going off. We have smoke alarm. And then fire ambulances, in that day, like 200, 300, 400 fire alarms went off in different buildings. And many of these buildings, there actually wasn't a fire, but because of the smoke, the false alarm went off and ambulances were rushing here and there. It was like chaos all over the city. So just like a smoke alarm, we have a smoke alarm to protect ourselves from fire. So similarly, in the same way, we should have, some alarm in our consciousness, in our mind or in our intelligence. Whenever we see some anger or frustration creeping in, we should immediately cut it down. We should immediately curb it down. Otherwise, as we see with Shringi's case, it can cause so much chaos in one's own spiritual life and in the lives of others. So it's very dangerous anger. It can really, shake things around. And Shastras say that there is a positive engagement of anger, that, as we all know, that whenever a devotee is being blasphemed, or the Supreme Lord is being blasphemed, one can, one can utilize his anger in that way to chastise that person who is blaspheming the devotee, or chastise the person who is blaspheming the Lord. But at the same time, like remember Ghanshyam Prabhu when we were having class on nectar instruction, Vacho Vegam, Manaso Krodha Vegam, how we should control the urge of anger, control the urge of speech. So in the purport, again, Prabhupada's mentioned the same thing, that anger can be used in Krishna service against the demons, against the non-devotees when they blaspheme Krishna and Krishna's devotees. One thing Ghanshyam Prabhu was explained to us, that yes, although Shastras say, okay, we can utilize anger in this way against demons or non-devotees, still at the same time, on our level of bhakti, on our beginning level, we should still stay away completely from anger. Because we will use anger, we'll think we're using anger, but we'll sometimes get overcome, Like we'll go too far. Like we don't know when to stop getting angry. And we might do something that we might regret. So one example I was thinking of that is Dhruva Maharaj. So I quickly finish with this. So Dhruva Maharaj, what happened is his brother once was in the forest, and one yaksha came and killed his brother. And when Dhruva Maharaj found out about this, Dhruva Maharaj became very angry. And he wanted to, and his brother was innocent. So, and his duty as the king is to, if someone is unrightly king, naturally he has to punish that person who unrightly killed another living entity. So then he started heading towards the residence of all the yakshas. And he waged war on these yakshas, and he started fighting with the yakshas to get revenge for his brother's death. And he just started completely annihilating the whole dynasty of the yakshas. Just started killing every one of the yakshas. But it's like a big, like there's like a whole chapter of this big, it's like a great battle. And so much so, he was just destroying all the yakshas, millions and millions of them. Then Swayambhu Manu, he had to come and stop him. Swayambhu Manu, I think he's like his great-grandfather, one of his previous ancestors. So he comes and he advises Dhruva Maharaj, okay, stop, now this is enough. Okay, you know, this yaksha did wrong and he killed your brother unrightly, but that was just one yaksha, you know. And why are you, just for one person's mistake, why are you killing the whole family? Why are you killing the whole dynasty? Why are you killing thousands and millions of yakshas just for one person's mistake? Okay, now your anger has gone a bit too much far. Now calm down, relax, just stop, and this is enough. And then Dhruva Maharaj says, okay, I'll stop. Then he takes the advice of his authority, his mentor, you know, or of his, you know, one of his spiritual authorities, and then he relaxes. So Prabhupada in his purport in this section, he explains this one very nice point, that the danger of anger is such that although initially one will be using anger in Krishna's service in like a proper way, the danger of anger is that it can get out of hand. So initially, okay, Dhruva Maharaj's anger was justified. Okay, it's his duty as his king to, okay, someone has done some sinful act, he has to get revenge, he has to do the right thing and give punishment. But that anger that Dhruva Maharaj was using in Krishna's service, it got out of hand. And he was doing too much. You know, he was killing unnecessarily more and more yakshas for no reason, no good reason. So that's the danger with anger. So that's why Ghanshyam Prabhu is explaining that even though it's said, okay, we can use anger against non-devotees or demons when they're blaspheming the Lord and Krishna's devotees, on our stage, on our immature stage, we should still completely stay away from anger. Because we'll think we'll use it in Krishna's service, but you know, we'll get too much over anger and we'll do too much, just like Dhruva Maharaj, and then we'll do something that we'll regret. So on our stage, we should completely stay aloof. Obviously, pure devotees like Prabhupada, you know, or our Guru Maharaj, pure devotees, Lord, they know just how much anger to use, you know, how much to go and just for Krishna's service. But for us, we don't have that maturity, you know, that experience. Like Prabhupada says, inexperienced boy Shringi. So similarly, we're also very inexperienced. So we don't know the proper utilization of anger. We don't know how much to use and how much to withdraw, when to withdraw. So that's why we should completely stay away. And this is one lesson we can learn from Shringi, the danger of anger. Okay, I'll stop here. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagur Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Entire Gaur Premanande.